Imagine standing at a crossroads, faced with two choices, one path lush and promising, the other rugged and uncertain. But this single decision set off a chain reaction that cost him everything: his wealth, his family, and his legacy. Lot's story isn't just ancient history, it's our story too. It's about how small compromises, selfish ambitions, and misplaced priorities can lead us down a path of destruction, even when everything seems fine on the surface. Today, we're diving deep into the rise and fall of Lot, Abraham's nephew, uncovering hidden lessons that could save your life, your family, and your future. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Share it with someone you love, because what you're about to hear could change someone's destiny. Let's explore 7 crucial lessons from Lot's journey. First, poor decision-making driven by selfishness. In Genesis 13:10-11 tells us, Lot lifted up his eyes and saw that the whole plain of Jordan was well watered. So Lot chose for himself the whole plain of Jordan and set out toward the east. When Abraham graciously allowed Lot to choose first, Lot's decision was driven by material gain, not spiritual discernment. He saw the fertile land near Sodom and chose it without considering the moral danger of living near a wicked city. This was one of Lot's biggest mistakes. He refused to respect his uncle Abraham by the choice he made. Lot had become prosperous through Abraham, but failed to acknowledge God's hand upon Abraham in his decision. He should have asked Abraham for guidance, and he would have gotten it right, because Abraham understood spiritual direction, but Lot didn't. The critical point here is that Lot prioritized prosperity over purity. Many people fall spiritually because they make life decisions based solely on financial or physical benefits, while ignoring spiritual consequences. Always seek God's direction before making major decisions. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us to trust in the Lord and not lean on our own understanding. Second, gradual compromise with evil. Genesis 13:12-13 states, Lot pitched his tents near Sodom. Lot didn't move directly into Sodom at first. He pitched his tents nearby, showing a subtle, gradual move towards sin. Over time, he eventually moved inside the city, becoming part of their society. The critical point here is that sin rarely happens suddenly. It begins with small compromises that seem harmless at first. James 1:14-15 describes how desire leads to sin, and sin leads to death. Guard your heart against the slow drift toward ungodliness. Where you pitch your tent today determines where you'll live tomorrow. Third, failure to influence his environment. By Genesis 19, Lot had become a city leader, sitting at the city gate, a place reserved for officials. Despite his position, he failed to influence Sodom for righteousness. His sons-in-law mocked him when he warned them of God's coming judgment, showing they didn't take his spiritual convictions seriously. His wife looked back, revealing her attachment to the sinful city. If you're not actively influencing your environment for God, you may be unconsciously allowing the world to influence you, as Romans 12:2 warns us against. Fourth, compromised family leadership. Lot's downfall is also seen in his lack of spiritual leadership at home. His daughters were engaged to men from Sodom who didn't respect his faith. His wife was so attached to the world that she disobeyed God and turned into a pillar of salt. After fleeing Sodom, his daughters committed incest with him, giving birth to the Moabites and Ammonites, 2 nations that later became enemies of Israel. Why? Lot never established a strong spiritual foundation for his family. His compromises weakened his ability to lead them in righteousness. A strong walk with God begins at home. Parents must model faith consistently to guide their families spiritually, as Deuteronomy 6:6-7 instructs. Fifth, attachment to worldly possessions. Even as Sodom was about to be destroyed, Lot hesitated to leave. Lot's hesitation reveals a divided heart, torn between obedience to God and love for material things. This attachment nearly cost him his life. Jesus warns in Luke 17:32-33, "Remember Lot's wife. Whoever tries to keep their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life will preserve it." Sixth, fear and lack of faith in God's deliverance. Even after the angels rescued him, Lot doubted God's plan. He was instructed to flee to the mountains, but he begged to escape to a small city instead. His fear revealed a lack of complete trust in God. Instead of walking in bold faith like Abraham, Lot allowed fear to dictate his decisions. Fear can cloud our judgment and lead to poor spiritual choices. Faith requires full trust in God's word, even when the path seems uncertain. Seventh, final tragedy, living in isolation and shame. Lot ended his life hiding in a cave full of shame and regret. This was a sharp contrast to Abraham, who continued to walk in covenant with God and became the father of nations. Lot's final legacy was tragic. 2 nations born from incest, no lasting spiritual heritage. His life became a warning rather than a testimony. In all, Lot's life was totally opposite of Abraham's. Abraham was also at the point of decision like Lot, but he followed divine leading, while Lot's choice was driven by the lust of the eyes. Lot responded to God's leading in fear. When the angel told him to run to the mountains, he gave excuses why he shouldn't go there. Did he know better than the angel? Unlike Abraham, who duly followed God even when his journey was unclear, Lot's story is tragic, but it doesn't have to be your story. At every point he had a chance to turn back to God, but he chose compromise over conviction. Where are you pitching your tent today? Are you choosing based on what looks good or what honors God? Are you influencing the culture, or is the culture influencing you? This generation faces its own Sodom, a world filled with digital distractions, moral confusion, and pressure to conform. But like Abraham, we can choose to walk by faith and leave a lasting legacy of blessing. If this story has touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below with the lesson that spoke to you the most. Together, let's learn from Lot's mistakes and choose a life of faith, purity, and purpose. Lot's life warns us of the danger of compromise, but it also reminds us that God's mercy is always near for those willing to obey. The choices we make today shape our tomorrow. Will you choose the path of compromise like Lot or the path of faith like Abraham? The decision is yours, and it could make all the difference in your life and the lives of those around you. Remember, every day presents us with choices that can lead us closer to God or further away. Let Lot's story be a wake-up call, urging us to examine our hearts, our priorities, and our decisions. Are we building our lives on the solid foundation of God's truth, or are we slowly drifting towards the allure of worldly pleasures? As we conclude, I challenge you to take a moment and reflect on your own life. Where are you compromising? What areas of your life need realignment with God's will? It's never too late to change course. God's grace is sufficient, and His mercy is new every morning. Let's commit to living lives of integrity, faith, and purpose. Let's be the Abrahams of our generation, not the Lots. Our choices today will echo into eternity. Choose wisely, choose faithfully, and watch as God transforms your life into a powerful testimony of His grace and goodness.